Okay, next item on our agenda is a Quest presentation by Mr. McTaggart.
Good evening. I brought a couple of people along with me tonight that I'd like to introduce. And Dawn is your food service director. She's here every single day, and she's involved with all of those committees, the wellness committees. You had student union up here. We deal with the students and food committees as well. And Kristen Kasperzak is her district manager, and I am Mike McTaggart. I'm the president of Quest, and I think I've been at almost every wellness meeting and quite a few of the food service committee meetings here. And I must commend you. We deal with a lot of schools, and you are ahead of the curve. From someone who sees it all across the state, they're always trying to do something new and something beneficial. And we're trying new ideas with the kids, and the kids are very responsive. You could see it in your union group up here earlier. They've got a lot of spirit. It's a great place to be. And so we're going to tell you what we've done since we got here a little bit, tell you a little bit about Quest, and try and make our case to stay here forever. Go ahead. You ready? You should just, there we go. A little bit about Quest. Quest was started in 1985. It was actually started by my father and Kristen's mother-in-law. And they started the company with St. Joe's High School and actually Illinois Institute of Technology. And over the course of time, we really concentrated on parochial schools and private schools. And about, I want to say, 7, 8 years ago, we took the model out to the street and have been very successful in growing our business. We have grown over 700% in the last 5 years, and it's with schools like yourself who are interested in a higher level of nutrition, a higher level of involvement, and then making sure that the food service doesn't impact the educational fund. So I'll talk to you a little bit about how we've done that over the last few years, and we'll go from there. Since day one, the beginning of Quest, we have always been, you talk about being ahead of the curve, we have always tried to make more from scratch. We have always tried to do as much as we possibly could to make it wholesome for our children. Way before the words organic or sustainable or footprint, you know, we've always been doing those things, and I think I know we've brought that to your school, and I think it's evident in the food and the participation. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Sorry. That's all right. Go ahead. I don't know what I was going to say. Well, I think we were just talking about quality ingredients. We talked about things like menu items, and I was probably going to talk about the
Mike,
food
it
committees.
was listening, how you have a passion to listen.
Okay, so food committees. Since the day we walked into this school, we have sat with the students and we have made decisions with the students. We have been not dictated to, but been part of this wellness movement. And every time there was something that we wanted to show them, we wanted to change the pizza crust to a whole grain pizza crust, we had them taste it. We told them about it before we made those choices. And we're fine. And I think it's a key part of what Quest is, and it's a key part of our relationship, has been working together, and we've built this program together. You know, some of the schools we serve, I'm going to tell you a little bit, just go to the schools we serve, we're good. I can do it. Go ahead. Some of the schools that we service, as I mentioned, we do a lot of the parochial schools. We do St. Ignatius, St. Viator, St. Joe's, just about anything with a saint. We do Marist and Carmel and Ignatius. We also do some really high-end schools, and we put together some programs I'll talk to you about a little bit at the end. We do the Latin School downtown Chicago. We do Parker, Francis Parker. We do all the school districts in Hinsdale. We do Lake Forest and Orland Park. And Riverside Brookfield fits into that mold. And I think that we've been a good match because we brought the quality and the ability to listen to a district that really wanted to make some change. Go ahead. We're good now. So a quick glance of where we were and some of the things that we've overcome as a team and how successful we've been at it. Free and reduced populations going up at every school, no matter where it is, and we've been able to increase options for those students without impacting your educational fund. I'll show you a little bit about that, but I think that that's the key component of this entire project. And how do we do that? We got participation up. Participation's way up, over 30%. Right, first year we came in here, we were up, and we're over 50% higher than we were on a daily basis. If you have any questions, go ahead. No?
At the end, I will
Okay.
ask you a question.
Great.
I'd wait till the end with this group, Mike.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. So, let's go ahead. Where we were, the district was losing money. You had a guarantee that said you were breaking even, but then you were being charged back for free and reduced meals. It kind of all came out in the bid process. Your per capita, which is how much kids spend per day, was very low compared to schools of a similar size. Where you are now, we are coming up with almost $40,000 of revenue towards just to, it's not, I wouldn't even call it revenue. It probably doesn't even offset your electricity and what you spend on repairs and things, but it does cover the cost for you, I believe. Our per capita increase, you can see the rent model, which I'd like to talk about briefly, was something that was new that we brought to the district. And what that did was, in essence, give you a guaranteed return on the program with no risk. And we started out with a low percentage because the first year it's hard for us. I mean, it takes a while to get things right. So we started out with a 5% of sales contract, and we went up to 7.5%, and that's what got us to that 40,000. So it takes a little while to get to where you need to be to get, I guess, your mojo going, so you know how much to make every day and not waste. And it's been very successful. Cost of students have remained basically constant over the entire contract. We've had one price increase on the meal over the 4 years, and I think that has been something I know that the board's asked us to do. We've tried to focus all of our attention on making sure that we brought new ideas and new things to the plate so that we didn't have to raise the price to the students.
Mike, just explain real quick the rent model.
Okay, so what, in essence, we take the sales and we give you a percentage of the sales. Prior to that, and not just with you, with a lot of, this is a Quest model. We're not the only ones doing it now, but prior to that, they'd take all the revenues and they'd bill you for all their expenses, and you never knew quite where those expenses really were from. And you would get maybe what was, and they'd charge you a fee, and you might get what was left at the end, or you could even be in a deficit. So in order to simplify things, we came in here and we said we can do it at a percentage of sales. All costs, all revenue are our responsibility. It's our job to manage the program at your direction, but to manage that program, and we just give you a check. So that it's as simple as that. There's no more having to worry about, you may have read in the news about rebates and pads and things like that. You don't have to worry about it. It's all gone. There's nothing to think about. Now, you can look at the register, you can say our sales were $1,000, and we got 5% or 7.5% of that now, and it's as simple as that. That's
We own all the equipment and service all the equipment.
You still own, and you always, yeah, and you always should. I mean, that's the way it typically is. A few of the big changes that we made, white flour and rice, things like that. We've switched to brown rice and whole grains. And like I said, we didn't just do it. We showed a lot of these items to the kids and tried to get buy-in and showed them, you know, I think with pizza tests, I don't know how many we've done here to try and get the right crust, because we were going to switch to a whole grain crust. We wanted to make sure that it was one that the kids wanted to eat. So we made those changes. We got rid of a lot of unhealthy options. There's no more sugared soda, which was here when we got here. Significant reduction of trans fats. Limited options when we got here. We'll show you how many we've added for, especially for the main meal, which I'll talk about. Is what we really tried to do was make sure that that stayed constant, that you get a good, wholesome meal for the same price you did pretty much when we got here. We added a lot of wraps, salads, introduced all those kinds of things to the food committees. The daily meal, go ahead, kind of talk about it a little bit. We implemented a vegetarian menu. We added black bean burgers, fresh salad, fresh cut fruit every single day. And that came from a food committee, if I remember correctly. And we always had some of these items, and I'm sure everybody did, but they didn't delineate it. Nobody knew that there was a vegetarian choice, so the vegetarians weren't really involved. So we made a big move to try and make that part of the everyday dealings and to advertise what we were doing. And now there's a minimum of 12 choices every day for that value meal. They can get salads, they can get sandwiches, they can get burgers, they can get chicken patties. Dawn knows better than I, but there's a multitude. We did not come in here and try to take away the options to make this program work. We tried to enhance it, and we did enhance it.
How much does a value meal cost?
That's a good question. What's your value meal now?
It's $3.75.
$3.75. How do we do it? The key drivers were the food committees, you know, listening and monitoring. Pam, you've been at some of them. It's what we do. It's what we can do different. It's something this is my company. If a student tells me that they want to change something, I don't have to worry about a rebate. I don't have to worry about where we buy it. I can go find them what they like. And I think it's one of the things that really changes or makes us different than, you know, the big guys. New energy in the cafeteria. I think you can go down there, you can sense it. There's new signage, nutritionals. We've worked to really try and make it a welcoming place. And you guys did a good job. You helped with the food court help too. And then we talk a little bit about the new garden and some of the vegetables we use in that. That's kind of a neat thing that we're hoping to get maybe even some publicity in the paper about soon. Go ahead. Just a little bit of what it looks like. This was just the other day. I guess we're talking about putting the effort and trying to make things fun. That's Dawn and their crew. That was for the opening Bears game. We're always trying to make it a little more exciting. You have great kids here. You have a great school, and we want to be part of it. And I think we show that every day. And I think we've done it for 4 years now, and I hope we can do it for a lot longer. Go ahead. These are vegetables that actually, see, I got them in there, Dawn. She sent me these this afternoon. These are vegetables that are being utilized and actually came out of the garden, and then they made a bouquet for Dawn.
Everything in that bouquet came from the garden. It's all spices and flowers, and it smelled very interesting because you could smell the oregano and all that in there, and the kale leaves, and it was cool looking. Then we put it in a basin, we put it out there so everybody could see it. It was pretty neat.
And your school's amazing, and it's a gem. And I don't know that everybody knows it, but we know it, and we want to be part of it. Some of the things that we're moving forward as a company, I talked about a couple of schools that I brought on. We've started a Quest for Life program. This program is being implemented in all our schools to some degree, but it's a program where we're moving towards going to one ingredient, where something's directly a plant or an animal, not processed at all, never frozen. So we're trying to incorporate some of those items in, and when we bring them in, and when an item fits into that spec, we're going to start to say that this is a Quest for Life item, and hopefully we can go and teach the kids what that means. And in order to do that, we're going to have health fairs, and we've been starting these, and I think I think RB's on our schedule. So we've got a dietitian that comes around and does a health fair, and they will show the students, for example, I probably should have put this picture in, maybe it is down there in the bottom corner, but we take a fast food meal and we put it out there, and then we take how much fresh food you can eat and things like that, and try to involve ourselves in that conversation of making choices. We haven't limited choices here. They can make bad decisions still, but we're offering a lot of good things, and we're trying to show them, hey, look at the difference. And that's our goal as a company, not just for RB. Go ahead. So working towards non-processed foods more and more, trying to do as much as we possibly can. We are trying to incorporate, I said a couple words but we are trying to incorporate where it makes sense, more organic produce and products. We're focusing on sustainability, recycling, being part of that wellness committee. Was there a recycling club here?
We have one.
Yeah, I remember being in a meeting here about that. So we're very involved in those things. Arming ourselves with knowledge about making the right choices. I mean, that's what we're all here to do, is educate the kids, help them make right choices so that they can grow up and be healthy parts of society. And that's Quest. And now you can ask questions.
Tim McGinnis, can you just really quick before we open the floor to questions, the National School Lunch Program, just so the board's clear on that, we do not participate in that. Quest picks up all that cost, correct?
Correct. If you're in the National School Lunch Program, you fill out reports every month. You send it in, and the government reimburses you for the free lunches that you've given out, breakfasts, and also the cost of the reduced lunches and breakfasts. We don't participate in that program, and haven't, just simply because our numbers are low. But there is, it's climbing a little bit every year. We're probably a little over, I would say we're somewhere in the 15% range, and that's all basically picked up by Quest. I mean, they're basically picking up the cost of the free and reduced.
And that's breakfast and lunch, right, Don?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Mike? Dan Moon?
Yeah, I do.
It's timely that you made this presentation because first thing this morning I was reading about the Department of Agriculture's guidelines for school lunches. And I was reading about these horror stories of kids going, ew, gross, you know, and throwing it away. And a lot of spoilage occurred. Your presentation's dazzling, made me hungry just watching your slideshow. How are you so different than what seems to be the news?
All right, so this is going to be politically correct, so let's hope it stays. But we're not on the National School Lunch Program.
Yeah, and I think I was hearing
there is
answer
a
here.
difference in what we can offer, and we have more freedom. Not that there's anything wrong with the National School Lunch Program, but we're not limited in what we can serve.
But you're well within the spirit of what Mrs. Obama and the Department of Agriculture are trying to do, except you're doing it in a little more gracious way.
I would agree. I would agree. I think it is. These are new regulations. They were put out. Those were that were not under, but those were put out. They have good intentions.
Yeah.
Believe me. There are some flaws with anything new, and I think
You're right.
it's going to be difficult. And if you don't do the things like we're talking about, and if you haven't pre-planned and made the kids aware of the change you're going to make, no matter what you do, if you make huge changes like that, it's inevitable that you're going to have a problem.
Well,
I think that not to jump, but I think we have made a lot of change here over the course of time and brought it in and introduced it to the kids. And that's why they're not choking on it, you know.
And so you gather a few of our students and have food boards, and you evaluate the yumminess of the food.
Right.
And of course, the adults in the room, the nutritional value of the food. And somewhere you find a blend, right?
That is the goal. Not always, but that is definitely our goal. And when we have food committees, I can tell you this: it is our goal to show the good, healthy stuff. That's where we really bring it in. You know, this is a new fruit juice, 100% juice item. We'll show that. You know, when we made the switch, they looked at us like we were the ones that took the sugared soda and the candy away, and we had to, instead of just saying it wasn't us, we had to say, hey, look at all these other options. And I think that's the way we come to the forefront, and that's the way we do business. And I think that's why we've been successful.
Seems like a good business model.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I was just going to say, that when you're part of the National School Lunch Program, when you give the meals to the students, you have to give them, you know, all of the components of the meal, whether they want it or not. They have to take it. And so that's why a lot of the students, what you're reading about is students will take a tray of food that has all these components and then walk over to the garbage and throw out what they don't want. But they have to take it. It's a regulation of the program.
Yeah, some of those kids are drinking jugs of milk because they didn't want to eat the broccoli and everything.
Right.
Okay, any other questions for Mike?
Yeah, I guess,
Thank you.
Laura, were you here when they did the switch, or is that
No, I think that was
discussion of
after
why
the
we
new,
switched and all that?
no, I
No
think
one
it was
here, I
different
think, was
business
here.
models.
You were here.
You were here?
Yeah, Mike and me were here.
Okay, so what was the, what was here before, and what was the
Procurement.
motivation? Money, or?
I just think that, given, Chris Walton led this charge when he was business manager, and I think just you wanted to go out and look what was out there, and Quest made the presentation that showed one of it being economically viable, but two, addressing a lot of needs that our students were complaining about with the other food service providers. So I think it was something big.
And when I was at Hinsdale, we made the same switch from the previous vendor you had to Quest. We went on site visits to 5 different food services, and the reason our students and our staff, and I was excited with Quest, was because of their fresh foods. They got things locally. When we were working with a bigger company that was a national component, it took forever to make change. I asked for hummus, and I think it took me 3 months to get a sample to show with the kids. When I ask Quest for hummus, I get it the next day, basically. But because they use local vendors. If we say we wanted bagels, they look at who can provide bagels in the area. So and healthy options, and so we were very impressed when we went out and did food testing, and that sold the kids, but then the business model, I think, sold the school board at my other district. And so I've worked with them, in both settings, and have found them, very responsive to the students and willing to embrace the wellness goals and be a real partner and collaborator with us to get to where we want to be. And the garden is proof of that. Dawn's excitement about having the kids bring in the food every day, putting it in the soup. She advertises it so the students know the kale's in the soup today, and the kids think that's really cool. So I think it's showing them that you can grow things and we're going to use them. And from the beginning, she said, what can we do to help and make this happen? And I would be so excited to make recipes with the kids, work with the cooking class, the culinary arts. So they've been, they're educators as well. She'll put up displays on what are brain foods, what are the power foods. And so I think that as far as a company, they're not just in here to make a profit or something. They're in here to really educate and work with our kids. I've been very impressed with that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and I've heard good things, and I've always enjoyed meals here, but I just want to, when you said that the per capita went from $1.85 to $2.23, is that per student per day?
Correct.
So you generate about $590,000 in revenue here a year.
I'd have to look, but you're probably right.
Yeah. So the thing that we have to concern ourselves as a board is, besides providing good services, we're providing a captive audience to you for our students. They can't go anywhere else.
Right.
So the way that we can control, we have to worry about controlling costs, because the way you present it is, it's no cost to us. No, it isn't. It's a cost to our students and our parents.
Correct.
So when you said that we got $40,000 in rent, is that above and beyond the free meal program that you have? Okay. And my understanding now, you give the students cards so nobody knows who's on the free meal, so there's a lot more participation. Which I think that's a really good thing. And then the one cost, when you also, like you said, is we own the equipment and we maintain it.
Correct.
Tim, I've seen some pretty big bills there. We might spend $40,000 a year maintaining the equipment, right?
Maintaining the food service equipment?
Yeah.
I don't think it's been quite that large.
Okay.
I don't know.
So that's our offset, is you pay us some proceed, and how do we decide how much we're going to charge the students for the food and how much
we work with you, we say something, you guys typically have said, we can't have a raise, and we've said, all right.
Okay.
I think we brought our case. When we had the one case, we talk about the CPI. We'd like to give our employees raises every year.
Sure.
We like to treat our employees well. We want the cost of food's going up, so we just try and make our case.
Okay.
And the board has say in that.
Okay.
And we only,
So that's
I
the
think
one thing you always have say in.
in your presentation, you said that you only have had one increase in the 3 years,
Yeah.
or 4 years that you've been here.
The last question I was going to ask, do you maintain the vending machines also?
I don't know.
No, that's
Because when you say there's no sugary drinks, there
It's not
apparently
us.
aren't, but they're all over the building.
That's a separate contract.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Kevin, Tim, how often does this contract come up and we get renewed?
Well, this was a 3-year contract, or was it a 2-year contract?
Okay, so this was a 3-year, it has an evergreen clause, so it can be rolled over. We projected our results for 3 years, and I think that's why people think it's a 3-year, so, a lot of our districts, most of our districts, roll them over as long as they're satisfied.
So
And I think Tim, you could check. I think that'd be the thing like that.
we were due at the end of last year, and I said, being in my first year with all the other things we were handling, that we would roll them over for another year and then have some time to discuss, take a look into more detail, and that's why Quest is here tonight, presenting to you to answer your questions. Then as a board, we can discuss whether we want to take this service back out to bid or roll over for another year and continue to monitor it on an annual basis. I will say that Dawn Ives, who's here tonight, is our manager on site. And whenever I have a building-wide meeting at the beginning of the year, mid-year, or end-year, when we're analyzing how the school year went, how the school year is going to go the next year, planning for special events or occasions, I include Dawn in that because she is a part of our leadership team. I think our #1 service here is customer service for the 1,500 students we serve a day. And she keeps them out of our office. And I've been at places where, you know, one day you have sausage and the next day you have meatloaf, you know, because it's the leftover sausage being cut up. We don't, Dawn and her staff doesn't do that. A lot of our local community members have part-time jobs with Quest and work in our food service department, and you'll see those same parents helping out with boosters and PTO and all those things. So she really has tried to make it part of the community and part of the environment here, and I do want to recognize her for the great job that she does for Pam and I. So.
Any other questions? All right.
Kevin, how will we'll have this to a superintendent subcommittee, or how are we going to discuss this?
Technically, what we would do is we would bring this to either finance or facilities. Probably this would more deal with finance because this has to do with revenue and whether it's cost savings or not.
Sure, okay.
We would discuss with them a little bit further and then report out at a committee of the whole to the finance, from the finance council to the entire board, and then the board would discuss whether or not it needs to be voted on. We did not take a formal, I don't know if we took a formal vote to roll over another year, because I think because of the clause in the contract. So I could check on that also with legal. Unless the board has other way, I'd like to, we could bring this up at our next finance council and then bring it back for a report out to the committee of the whole, or that discussion can occur tonight with Mike present, however the board.
Well, there's a bailout period, like 60 days or something?
You can always get out in 60 days.
Anytime. All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for doing that.